She thought intuition was just a feeling until it became the compass that shaped every major turning point in her life. Today, intuition mentor Anna Quigley shows us how to hear it, trust it, and follow it. This is the Your Next Success podcast, and I am your host, Dr. Carolyn Sengel. I am a life-first career coach and strategist on a mission to normalize questioning your career, because I believe each of us is made on purpose for a purpose only we can fulfill. The longer we live out of alignment with who we are, what we do best, and why we are here, the more we miss out, and the more the world misses out on what only we can give. The Your Next Success podcast is where we explore how to build a career that truly fuels your life. We talk about self-discovery, smart job search strategies, professional growth, and you will hear stories from people who have navigated big career transitions themselves, so you can create a life-first career and become your own version of authentic success, one that is aligned, meaningful, and truly yours. For more than 30 years, Anna Quigley has studied how intuition works and how it guides us through the most meaningful turning points in our lives. She blends neuroscience, mind-body work, and inner wisdom to help women recognize their intuitive signals and move toward their next chapter with clarity and confidence. Anna's story is a powerful example of what happens when you start listening to the inner cues you've been brushing aside. We explore how intuition speaks through your senses, why midlife often feels like a calling, not a crisis, how early interests and natural abilities point towards purpose, and simple ways to strengthen intuition in daily decisions. If you felt a quiet pull towards something more, this episode will help you understand that signal and take your next step with confidence. Welcome, Anna, to Your Next Success. I'm super excited for our conversation today.
As am I.
Awesome. So as you know, I love talking about careers, career transitions, kind of the fun journey that got us from what we thought we were going to do into what we're actually doing and serving today. So I'd love to kind of get into your story a little bit. Would you mind telling us, where did you grow up? What was childhood like? What kind of things did you think were fun and fascinating?
Yeah, and a very traditional Midwest background. I was born in Cleveland, lived there until about 9 when my family moved out to Southern California. So I'm essentially been a West Coast girl for most of my life. But the fundamental Midwest work ethic, work hard, independent, do things, on your own. Don't ask for help. That's been a lesson I've had to overcome, is learning that it's okay to ask for help. So Dad was in sales and management, and Mom, mostly was a homemaker. So very, very fundamental kind of upbringing. 3 other siblings. I was the baby for a while. So yeah, all of those different levels. So.
Yeah, so something about your dad's career made it so that this West Coast move was a good thing, or were there other family members there? What was the driving factor?
No, they were. My dad came out for a job situation, but loved it because they liked getting away from the snow and the cold. And, he called the relatives back in Ohio on, Christmas and Thanksgiving and say, oh, yeah, I just played 9 holes this morning, while there were 3 feet of snow. So some of the others moved out to the West Coast as well. But he was a bit of a pioneer, my dad.
That's awesome. And so now for you, what kind of things did you enjoy in school? What subjects were fascinating, or what kind of activities did you love doing outside of school?
I loved swimming. I was always on a swim team to keep me away from the water. So it was nice. Even in Ohio, we lived right on Lake Erie. So I grew up in the water. My mom loved the water too. So I think she kind of coordinated that. But grew up at the beaches in Southern California. I loved that. I've always loved writing. That's been something. I wrote a lot of poetry when I was younger. Haven't been doing much of that lately, but did a lot of writing. Love that. I love movies, that stayed with me. Actually, I was a film major for a brief period in college, but arts and entertainment, arts in all forms, really, I love.
Yeah. And so then as you kind of went through high school and decided to even go on to college, how did you pick what to study and how did that evolve?
I had several different majors because I was finding myself. That's the fun of college, is you get to explore different things. So I believe I started as a theater major, actually, because I loved movies. So I was studying radio, TV, film, did that for a bit. And that really wasn't the direction I wanted to go. I ultimately ended up with a degree in journalism and public relations. Toward the end of my college career, I was very, very tempted to shift to architecture, which is another passion. But I did want to do another 2 years of college. I was like, okay, I'm ready to be done. I'm ready to be out of there. So journalism and public relations have served me in every job I've ever had. And architecture, interestingly, I'm an amateur photographer, and most of what I love shooting are buildings and
nice.
structure.
Yeah.
It all works together. You find these interests that we have, and the more you can use them, the more joy you bring into your life.
And so then as you left college, how did that evolve into, what was the work world looking like for you for different chapters?
Well, I left Southern California right after college. I kind of missed seasons. I had enough of that growing up in Ohio. I missed weather. Yeah. More than just one season or mild variations of two. And I packed up, and I have a bit of my dad's Rolling Stone kind of feeling. And I moved to Colorado. Didn't know anybody, found a great place there, and just needed a job, and ended up in sales, actually. My dad had been in sales, and so I was doing promotional work and selling and working for a liquor wholesaler, which is the job that I found. So my big feminist claim to fame is that I was the first woman to sell hard liquor in the state of Colorado. That's what it is. Nobody had done that before. So that was my feminist barrier break, which is really funny. But it was a great experience, and it helped me come out of my shell a little bit. I was really very shy. And having to be out and interact with people that I didn't know and put myself out there was really a valuable experience.
And then what happened, I guess?
Well, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. The next job was a friend encouraged me to get a job with a large corporation. She was working for one, and I ended up with a job with Wesson as a sales rep and sales manager. It's now ConAgra. So I ended up in the grocery industry on the retail side. Later in my life, I ended up doing food service, but that was a great job. I had like 5 states, and I got to travel around. And again, it was really instrumental in helping me come out of my shell and really get comfortable talking to people and sharing experiences and learning more about them. I got to be very curious about people in different parts of the country and how they lived and what was important, what their priorities were. So it's that interest has continued through my life.
And I guess maybe this is the right time to ask. So in this youngish view, what did you think it meant to be successful? What did you think you were wanting to have a successful life or a successful career from that vantage point? We'll get to what it is now, but yeah.
Wow. Having a decent income, having success. And honestly, back in those days, it was about a social life and connection. I had a wonderful time in my 20s and my 30s, and interacting, actually working for the liquor wholesaler. I knew every pub, every great place to go. So when I'm out in my 20s, I knew every bartender, I knew everything. I didn't drink much, but it was a fun connection when you're out with your single girlfriends in your 20s. So kind of fun. So that was that. But I wanted to do something more, and I didn't know what that was. So as I got to kind of the end of my 20s, this stirring started coming up. And I remember my mom was visiting from California at one point, and we just got into this wonderful deep connection. And I burst into tears. I know there's something I'm supposed to be doing, Mom. I don't know what it is. It just really started building up to where it's like, okay, it was quite emotional. And, she was so sweet. She was like, oh, I hope I get to see what it is. I'm not sure she
Aw.
did entirely, but, she was always supportive with that. And it started in my late 20s where I just knew there was more. Just knew it.
And so how did that come up? Was it a feeling? Was it recurring thoughts? Was it a dream? What?
It definitely came as a feeling. It came with levels of, I happened to be really good at sales, but I wasn't happy doing it. It wasn't fulfilling at all.
Yeah.
And I interestingly connected with one of our other salespeople, and we were driving from a distance and started a conversation. And he told me about an aptitude test at the company that did aptitude testing, Johnson O'Connor Research Foundation and Human Engineering Lab is what the old name used to be. And they didn't test for, what do you love? They tested for what your actual aptitudes were. It was wonderful. A day and a half of wiggly block tests and auditory cues and that sort of thing. And at the end, the first question, you get an assessment with the professional. And the first question he said was, what are you doing in sales? And I said, thank you. Yes. That's what's been haunting me. It's like, I know it's not the right fit. So we went through all of the aptitudes that I was strongest in, and he helped me understand that the more of the aptitudes that I have, that I use, the more fulfilled I will be and the happier I will be. And that was very critical because I had some tangible things. One of my math abilities, and I'm not great with certain parts of math, I'm good, certain parts I'm not. But it ties in with photography. And I loved photography. When I was a journalism student, I started, learning how to develop film and working with cameras. And that continues. I'm back now doing a lot of amateur photography and entering contests and whatnot. That uses several of the aptitudes that I have, and that brings me a lot of joy, a lot of creativity. So that was one thing. And then it helped me guide me in career. I needed to do a variety of things, not just one focus. So it was very helpful. And I refer to that for, several years to help kind of guide me if I wasn't sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And so I do believe Johnson O'Connor Research Foundation is still out there. The same philosophy underneath Johnson O'Connor also became what I offer now as the Highlands Ability Battery.
Right.
The difference is that now Highlands has taken a lot of that. Instead of being a couple-day event that you had to be somewhere, now it can be done online to make it much more accessible. And then there still is a very detailed debrief. But yes, I think that's amazing that that was offered to you so you could come to know. Just because we live as us doesn't mean we actually understand all the gifts and talents that have been poured into us for a reason.
Exactly.
And yes, and that, those natural abilities or aptitudes, they're poured in, they kind of solidify around age 14 or 15, and they stay, that starting point stays stable unless somebody has a traumatic brain injury or dementia. But other than that, then you build skills on top. And yes, when you're building skills and things on top of how you're naturally wired, it does make things more energizing, exciting. And then if you pair interest into that as well, then now you've got 3 factors. So that's
absolutely. I think everyone should be able to do that. I would love to see kids in school have that as an option. And another thing that I found along those same lines of recognizing those innate abilities, and I think this is more true with women. I don't want to be, make it exclusive, but so often we don't value the things that come easiest to us. If we didn't work really hard for it, then, I asked some friends and family at one point to get some clarity. So, okay, what do you think I'm really good at? And some of their answers were just, oh, you're good at accessorizing. Oh, you're good at this. I mean, and I was polite, but I dismissed it and said, thank you, but give me something I can use. And I was looking for tangible, something, more structure. I ultimately started an import business. And what was interesting is I didn't know what exactly I was going to import when I did my first buying trip. But every stall, every store, every street vendor that was selling accessories, handbags and scarves and jewelry and small furniture, I would make a beeline to. And after about the third time, I'm like, the light bulb. It's like, this is how it all ties together. This thing that I love, just naturally, I'm good at putting things together.
Yeah.
This is how that works. So I started importing those items because I had an affinity for them. And I had dismissed that, like, as it's not important. But those things that come easiest to us, those are the gifts we were born to use. Those are the gifts we were born to share.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And interestingly, I think we talked a little bit prior to this recording that a lot of that import, and then you got to actually help people. So you're making a big impact. You're helping other families to have, good lives, other women to market their wares beyond the reach that they normally have. Then your sales capabilities, all of these are kind of like coming together, that those foundational elements still build to create the version of you, the next version of you. So that's amazing.
It did. It all came together. It brought in the travel, which is one of my major passions. So I got to do that. I was helping local women provide jobs for the community. Most of my imports were from India and Nepal, South America. So it just benefited on so many different levels. And the fact that I have products that I was interested, that I loved, it was easy for me to share that and help others. As you say, everything kind of came together with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
Now, tell me a little bit about this intuition. I know this is something that you have studied quite a bit about and that you help people a lot with. Now, how has your intuition developed, sharpened over time? How did you even learn to listen? Yeah.
That also happened early on in my life. I started doing more spiritual studies when I was in college, studying world religions, and just was a question. That was my period of time to just question everything. I still have a bent for that, but anything and everything I could explore and try. And that's when I first learned about that intuition, that word. I mean, of course, we've all had the feelings and gut feeling and those things, but recognizing what it is and how you could use it was the key. And the more I studied, I realized that not only is this just something that comes up that guides us, but that we can learn to use it. It's built into every single human being. This is a divine gift that we have, just like those abilities that just come naturally to us that we tend not to value. That's exactly how intuition works. It is always available. And I tested it because I can be a little bit of a skeptic, and I had some amazing results with it's like, okay, all right, I get this. This is real. This is real. And in my recent work, I've really delved into the science behind it. The science now has documented that these impulses are responses to our environment, to what's going on in our environment and coming through our senses. So our intuition makes itself known to us through that gut feeling or that little quiet voice, all of those things. And there's science behind this. This is legit. This is no longer considered woo-woo. We know now how it works and why it works. And we can literally reverse engineer by working with our senses and creating what it is that we want. So using our intuition can guide us in and out of situations, but we can also use it to create the life that we want.
So what are some examples of like how you tested it and what happened through your testing, how you saw some real life examples of your intuition working for you?
Well, the first aha one that I did, I said, "Oh, all right, let's see." And it was the silliest test. There was a particular belt, a particular color that I wanted, and I thought, well, okay, if it can help me find, again, I like accessories. We can help me find that. Let's see. And so I kind of got quiet and thought, okay, where can I go? Where should I go to find this? And it happened to be a popular item at the time. This was like that was in the 80s, late 80s. And so a store I knew had a lot of accessories across town is, okay, that's where you go. And I thought, well, all these other places have it too. So I thought, I'm stopping everywhere. I stopped at every little boutique, every shop that might have it. Nobody had it. They had them, but they didn't have the right color. And I finally got to the store that my intuition had said, yes, they will have it. And I walked around and wow, they didn't have it. And I thought, all right, this is a test. Look again, really go through the nooks and crannies. And they had other similar items, but they didn't have the one I wanted. And I thought, all right, well, I tried. I tried. And I started walking out the door and that little voice is like, just ask. Just ask. And I thought, well, wow, I already know they're going to say, if it's not on the floor, we don't have it, right? And I took another step toward the door. And again, it was like, just ask. And I thought, all right, this is a test. So let's take the test to the full extent. I walked up to the counter and I had a picture. Here's the color. This is exactly what I want. And the clerk behind the counter said, oh, yeah, that came in this morning. We just haven't had a chance to put it out. I thought I was on to something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, this we're going to work with this. And that was really the first launch. Now, do I always listen? No, I'm human. And I actually a few months ago, just was in a zone and relaxed and wanted to take this back roads home. And my intuition said, take the freeway. And it kind of startled me. I thought, no, I want the relaxed road. And I ignored it. And a couple of blocks later, it was like, turn around. And I hate turning around. I hate double back. I hate redoing anything. It's a pet peeve of mine. And I thought, no, my rational mind was like, no, we had a plan. We're going to stick with the plan. And I ran into construction. I turned the corner, I ran into construction, and I ended up being about a half an hour delayed going home. Nothing major, but I had to laugh at myself because I know my intuition has never failed me. It's always guiding me. But it was such a good lesson and a good reminder because that's what happens. Most of the time when we listen to it, the earth doesn't move, there's no major event that happens, but we don't know what we might have avoided, which is exactly what the situation was for me. And I still got home safely. I probably would have been home faster the other way. I will never know. And that's the part where faith comes in. When you practice and you start really working with your intuition, the more you get familiar with it and learn to trust it, then it's like, okay, I'm not questioning it because it's never failed me. And I don't have to know why. So there's kind of a surrender too. It's like, okay, all right, I'm gonna trust. It's always worked, so I'm gonna continue to trust.
And what are some ways to kind of develop that or test it safely? I'd like to think I'm kind of glad I didn't get some of the things I thought I wanted when I was younger,
Yes.
or that some of the relationships that I thought would be great weren't. In hindsight, but how do you test that out?
Oh yeah. It kept me out of a relationship. The red flags were there, and I'm still, oh no, I'm going through with this. But the red flags were strong enough, and the intuition was strong enough. I walked away from a wedding not too far in front of the actual ceremony. And, it was absolutely the right thing to do. Difficult, very difficult.
Yeah.
But I had so many friends at that time that came up and said, oh, I wouldn't be divorced if I, had the nerve to do that. And I don't know that it was nerve, but there were enough signals that were telling me something's not right here. It was, the gut feeling, the intuition. It's like, there's just, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. And it's not always an easy decision to follow intuition. But again, it comes with getting familiar with it, really getting to know how your intuition speaks to you, what that feels like, what that little voice sounds like. And it can come in through every one of your senses. And the more familiar you are with it, and the more you pay attention to it and test it, that's really the best way. Keep trying and seeing. It makes it easier.
Are there certain times of day that are better than others for trying to listen or test your intuition?
Life gets so busy. Our days are busy and hectic. First thing in the morning is good because your rational mind is quieted down from sleep. So quite often, and I think we've all had this, you wake up in the morning and it's like, oh, that's the solution to the situation, the problem that I'd been thinking about, because you've given your mind a chance to breathe, if you will, without, I got to fix dinner, I got to get the kids off to school, I got to do, this, I have an appointment at whatever time, get myself to work. Any opportunity that we can find some quiet time, some space, I say, even if, you sit for 2 minutes in your car before you go in the house at the end of the day. Taking a breath, going in nature. Nature's my go-to. Water. I joke, I call it the power of the shower. You get in the shower and you just forget about all the things, the warmth and the water hitting. There have been so many people that have come up with inventions and songs and all kinds of great things when they relax and let go and stop focusing on the to-dos and allow the what can be.
Oh, I love that. Yes. And that's the thing. I think COVID for me kind of took, that a bit of a forced break. We're in North Carolina. The place shut down for almost, 2 solid years.
Right.
But all of a sudden then removing that, this kid's got 8 or 9 different activities. So does that kid, then the other things and all. And then it was just like silence and allowing things to be. And appreciating and noticing each other a little bit more, even though we were, in the early phases quite terrified. But that there was a beauty that came from that. I think that's the other thing too. Like every single thing in life, every challenge is an opportunity to grow into something more beautiful if you look beyond the surface level effect.
I agree. And so many people came up with creative things during COVID because they had an opening. They had this space where they weren't, I got to run to the market. I got to run here. I got to get to the dock. No, we had, if you will, extra time. We didn't commute. We didn't have to worry about the commute. You can sit in your sweats and have a meeting, and just a lot of extra little moments that we all had in that. And so many creative ideas came with just making room. A rational mind keeps us on track. It's critical for living. But intuition is where it's the source of our creativity. It's the source of our inspiration. It's what moves us forward and brings passion, really, to us. Your purpose lives in your intuition. I totally believe that.
Imagine what your life would be like if your career aligned with who you are, what you do best, and actually fueled the life you want. At Next Success, we support all ages and stages through career transitions, from students exploring majors or careers to job seekers actively searching or reimagining their next move to professionals committed to self-awareness and leadership growth. Stay connected and explore what's possible at nextsuccesscareers.com and follow Next Success Method on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
And so you had this career in sales. Do you still have the import-export business or the import business?
No, that kind of, ran its course.
And so then what happened? And so then what was the next chapter for you?
Well, I had, at that point, I had been living up in Washington State and felt the calling with family and friends all moving back to Southern California. My parents were elderly. They were getting to the point where I really could have wanted to be with them as much as I could in that period of time. And so I moved back to Southern California. It's something I said, never say never. I swore I would never move back here because I liked the seasons and I like a little bit of the weather. It's like, yeah, just go with it, It was absolutely the right thing to do. And I started, again, shifts. Those open periods in our lives that can be scary in between jobs or whatever are also such great opportunities for reassessing, self-assessing. What's working? What do I love about what I've done? What are the things that I love doing? And how can I incorporate, again, back to the aptitudes, how can I incorporate more of that in what I'm doing? And I went back to, I've done events. I love events. I love, journalism and, public relations and all of that. And I'm like, it's marketing. It's marketing. And marketing has so many different aspects to it. I also needed to do a lot of different things. So my focus was on, I'm going to get into a full-time marketing position because I've just kind of been dancing around that for a long time, and I just was not having a lot of luck, and I saw an ad for a part-time marketing position. I'm like, I'm not part-time, I need full-time. And that intuition is like, go interview, just explore it, go interview. And I almost didn't go, and I finally booked the interview. I was heading out of town for the holidays, and I'm like, okay, I'll go. It turned into being one of the best jobs I've ever had. They hadn't had a marketing person at this corporation and a small international engineering company. So they didn't really know how many hours it was going to take to do the job. So a lot of people that were fixed on full-time said, no, not interested. Interested. And I was open to, okay, I can always get a second job if I need to with, for the income. So I took the job, and within a month, I was working full-time. And I went to my boss, who happened to be the CEO, and I said, I got all of these projects done that you wanted. I said, but it's been I've been working 40 hours a week and then some. And he goes, oh, okay. If that's what it takes, that's what it takes. And the first month, it was full-time. And
that's awesome.
It was great because I got to do events, and I was doing advertising, and I was working with the salespeople because I do have an affinity and an understanding of how salespeople think and work. And it was technical, so that satisfied another one of my aptitudes. I was taking photographs of plants, so I, not green plants, but factories and facilities. So that satisfied that structural thing. So it was really a nice culmination of all of these elements. So it was creative and structural, and I almost walked away from it because it didn't look like exactly
what you thought you wanted. Yes.
I needed, and I listened to or trusted my intuition and thought, okay, we'll figure out how to make it work. And it just, it's great.
And so then what happened? Because I know that today you're doing something.
I'm doing something
really
digital.
impactful.
Yeah.
And how did that possibility open up from seemingly having a safe, stable job that got to use a lot of talents and
I did it.
Things that you're interested in?
Yeah, I was with the company for like 9.5 years with that job. So, and grew in it. In that time, again, another one of these passions was popping up. And I love biographies, and I love learning, how did you do that? How did you get from A to B? And passion, again, I was still like, is this my passion? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And I started, okay, I'm going to interview people. I'm going to interview these amazing women that I know and that people have introduced me to, and ask them, how did you find your purpose? That they were living their purpose. How did you get there? What were the steps that you took? What were the signs that that you listened to that got you to that. So I interviewed about, I think, a dozen women and was still doing my job full time. COVID came, I had a health adventure, there were, life happened, and there were some things that kind of pushed me back away from that. And then the job kind of turned in a direction that I needed to go for my own benefit and health. And then I'm at the precipice again, and it's like, now what? Now what? I took the opportunity and took off and went traveling. For me, that's always a bliss, and it clears my mind. Stepping away from my everyday helped me, whatever that looks like. And we all have our own ways of, getting away, but stepping away from the everyday. So I traveled a lot. I took a lot of pictures, went to medieval cities in Europe, and went to places I hadn't been, Santa Fe, New Mexico, or just gave myself some time to get clear. And I thought, what keeps coming up in your life? It's passion. It's passion. It's how do you find it? What is it? Where is it going? And that was my answer. It's like, all right, you've learned, you've gone through this, you've found things that keep coming up. You found these callings, these breadcrumbs throughout my life. It's all, even back into my early 30s, it was all about, I'm going to write a book about finding your passion, about living your passion. So it's been there consistently. And I always work with my clients to look at those breadcrumbs in their life because they're very significant. And I made the decision that I'm going to use my writing skills and my, training skills and my psychology, because I was working on a doctorate in psychology at one point, and use all of these skills. How can I do that and help people, women particularly, but not exclusively, figure out what their purpose is for the next part of their life? And of course, some of the tools that I'm using are intuition, using as a tool to find and clarify what that is, and then quantum mind-body techniques to make it happen.
What is that? Explain that a little bit more for those that aren't sure. And I don't even know that I'm sure. What is a quantum mind-body technique?
Oh, well, I know it sounds fancy, but it's really so simple. Everything in our body is energy. Every cell in our body talks to every other cell in our body by electrically, basically, energetically. And you can use that. You can re-engineer, basically. People talk about visualization. Oh, let's picture what we want. I like the term sensory imagination better because every sense is involved. It's not just like imagining what I want. But this is such an interesting thing. The mind does not know the difference between what is real and what we can very specifically imagine. And by imagining, I'm also saying, what's it feel like? What does it feel like? What is if you think about moving into a house, buying a house, what does it feel like when you walk in the door? What's it feel like when you're cooking in this wonderful kitchen, or your feet on the grass in the backyard, or the flowers that you smell when you come in the house? Incorporating every sense, that's where we start getting to the quantum level. But every sense that you can bring to it, the more real you make it, your brain, your mind is like, oh, okay, that's what we want. And everything will rise up to help you move in that direction and move it more quickly. It's literally re-engineering and reprogramming your mind. Yeah.
By defining more clearly beyond just the what, but the how you feel in that situation, in that experience.
It's
defining all of those allows your mind to then use the reticular activating system to find it and associate it and be like, that's it.
And it's energy. It's shifting that vibration. When you've run into someone at some point and your whole body shakes, or you feel this rush of energy throughout your body, because it's like someone I've known you. How do I know you? But I've never met you, but we feel connected. It's elevating that energy to make it it's real. Again, the brain doesn't know the difference, recognize the difference between what we clearly create, but every level needs to be incorporated. But you're raising your frequency. You're changing a dial on a radio. It's like, okay, you get the static, and when you get really clear, that's when the signal comes through. That's when you hear the message. That's when you get the results you're looking for.
So what are some of the first things that you ask people to do when they come to you and they're not sure, what it is they want to do and how they can even sort that out?
It has to start with some self-assessment. We work on looking at the breadcrumbs throughout their life. Similar to what you asked me, what were you good at? What did you love when you were younger? What were the things, and still are things, that bring you joy, that make you just the energy in your body and your mind resonate and get excited. You can feel that, the electricity almost running through. We look at those things, look at what's not working. What are the areas, conversely, that just seem to be stagnant or that aren't flowing easily? The old saying, go with the flow. Well, it's the same thing. Get in that energy. When you're aligned, you'll feel that things move more fluidly. When I listen to my intuition, my errands run faster. And I forgot to grab that before I run out the door. Well, that wasn't rational mind. That wasn't planning. That was the intuition. Oh, yeah, okay. And it can streamline. Same thing with looking back at at the things and experiences in our life that call us. There is a calling. There is something that we're meant to do, and there are signs throughout our lives. So we start unraveling. With that.
And how do people find you now if they are struggling with this? If they're not served by my voice, they might be served by your voice. So how can we direct them to contact you? What's the best way?
One of the things that I do suggest is, if you're not listening to your intuition, to start tracking it, if you will. Paying attention to it. Something may happen on Monday where you go, oh yeah, I don't know why I turned right or I turned left, but this happened, or I got home faster than I expected. Write it down, because 2 days from that experience, you're gonna not even remember what it was, and it helps to note those. And so I like a tracking sheet. I have a tracking sheet. If your listeners go to intuitiongift.com, they can download a free intuition guide and tracking sheet. Maybe they have a special jar or a special container or box or something. When those things happen, you don't have to track it, just write it down. But what happened and how did it come? Did it come through an auditory clue? Did it come from my gut feeling? And just put it in, and they'll be surprised at how fast that jar fills or that box fills with these moments of intuition. And it's a good way to start going, oh, okay. I saw that happened. I'm getting a similar feeling. That's what's going on again.
Gotcha. And so now, how is your definition of success changed? Like, for you, what does authentic success mean now?
Yeah.
Because we both spent time being externally successful by somebody else's measure, internally not fulfilled.
Yeah.
Now, how is that for you? How do you define that?
It's on such a different level. It is such a different level. But I'm using all of those tools that I've garnered throughout my life. But right now, I'm saying 1,000, but I'd love for it to be more. If I can help 1,000 people recognize what their purpose is and find a way to do it, create that, and live their purpose, the world will shift. The world will shift with less than
Absolutely.
1,000, but that's my immediate goal, is to just
I love
do.
it.
If I can do that, I've done what I'm here for, what I came here for.
I love it so much. I think we talked from the beginning that we met. We could tell we're on similar missions. Just fun, different coasts of the U.S.
Yeah.
But definitely on this really driven goal to help people realize who they are, what they do best, what they're here to do, help that person's life to be better, their families, their communities around, and
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And do what we're here to do, the gifts that only each of us, I absolutely know in my heart and my soul, every one of us has something unique to give in some unique way, some variation of what, may think, 20 other people are doing that. Why should I? But nobody's going to do it the way they are. And it's never too late. I am a perfect example of that. For midlife, I've done 3 new things, shifting and following, and I'm finally to the one that I know I'm here to do. It is never, ever, ever too late to find your purpose and live your purpose. Absolutely guarantee that.
Well, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing all of this beautiful wisdom, experience, insight with our listeners. I encourage everyone to go to the intuitiongift.com so that you can learn more about Anna and get her beautiful tracking sheet and all of those things as part of your journey to move forward. But Anna, thank you so much for all of your time today and for sharing so much of yourself and your story.
Love our conversation. So yeah. And find your aptitudes, however that comes. Yes. Your natural gifts. Pay attention to what just comes effortlessly to you.
I love it. Thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you.
Anna, thank you for sharing your wisdom, your warmth, and the lived experience behind everything you teach. Your clarity around intuition and the way you translate it into everyday guidance is such a gift. For those listening, if today's conversation sparked something in you, a nudge, a sense of recognition, or a quiet pull towards your next chapter, all of her links are in the show notes. Your inner guidance is active, present, and ready to support your next step. Thank you for spending time with us today. Thanks for listening to Your Next Success with Dr. Carolyn Sengel. Remember, authentic success is yours to define and includes aligning your career to support the life you want.